Welcome to the Journey to Wellness podcast, sponsored by the Essential Wellness Society and Healing Wheel Holistic. I'm Melissa Stonehill Caiyem, and I will be your host. With over 40 years experience in the health and fitness industry, I am ready to dive in to some of the most conflicting topics we have regards to health today. Let's go. Welcome back to the Journey to Wellness podcast. Today I have my dear friend, Russell Crouch, also known as Chef Russ, or just Russ. Today we have a lot to dive into. Russ is the co-author on our book, Daily Practices, Mindfulness Companion. He is a Qigong teacher, a certified personal trainer, National Academy of Sports Medicine, a musician, a writer, a thought leader. Today we're going to dive into one of the topics that he really has spent a lot of time learning, and it is called the Kabbalion. I want to ask you, why did we choose together, why this topic? We have a book of 7 chapters. It's very interesting how we started the book with daily practices of why, and then we go into the Kabbalion. And I'm feeling that that was designed to connect people to mindset. Would you say that was why we chose this?
Well, I was fascinated by the Kabbalion. It has a lot of interesting points that I do want to bring up. But even before that, and kind of like as a toning or as a way to kind of prepare for it, I wanted to just get into something else, and that is our sense of self. Because that's a much more difficult subject. It's a much more difficult thing to understand and complicated. But I wrote something down that comes from different notes from different places that kind of helps with the concept. So while at first there seems to be only an I that exists, a more careful examination reveals that there's an I and a me. And that's a very interesting, if you just think about it, how you can reflect on yourself. That's the I looking at the me. So, of course, we know the me. We're able to rest in the consciousness of the I. It's not a consciousness we generate, as in the me. The me is who I am, the me is what I do and what I'm about. But the I is an observation. So that's the energy consciousness. The I can stand aside and witness the operations of the me and its mental creations. This dual aspect is in everyone. And it's the I represents the masculine principle of gender. The me represents the female principle. And the I is an aspect of being. The me is the aspect of becoming. So this is not really something from the Kabbalion, but this is more preface to some of the points. So that's a real interesting concept, right? And so that I'll throw that one at you and see how does that sit with you.
So I'm smiling because where this takes me visually is Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, when the hookah smoking caterpillar sitting on the mushroom is blowing smoke rings and says to Alice, "Who are you?" And it was so profound when I was a kid, like seeing that, and I was like, who am I?
Right.
And Alice
That's
says,
a deep kid that
it
can
is.
think that.
Yeah, I guess I was, because when I read, I think I was like 8 years old, and I'm like, well, who am I? Like, this is my skin, because Alice answers, she says, well, I'm Alice. I'm the same Alice today as I was yesterday. And the caterpillar says, that's impossible.
I love
How
that.
could you be the same person today that you were yesterday? So I will ask you again, who are you?
Right.
And I just remember this lingering moment that I had as a child where I was thinking, who am I? Am I my name? Am I my hair? Am I my clothes? And I think it's this perpetual question, people, man in search of man, right? Trying to identify ourselves in some way, grasping for identity. So when you start to expound on these things, the grasp for identity, gosh, I feel like that's been the blessing and the curse in existence throughout time. Because somebody decides they have the answer. I've got the answer, and I have it for everybody. My answer, my identity, I want you to have it, and I want you to have it, and you're going to wear it so well, and how does that feel? And all you got to do to do what I do is this. And then we get pushed down these paths that are really inauthentic. So I know that's a long answer to asking me how that lands.
You brought up one of the great stories in human history, I think, Alice in Wonderland. I love that. So many metaphors there.
Yeah.
So, but with this idea between the I and the me, that takes some reconciliation. And like you said, as a kid, you were reflecting on, well, who am I? Just think about it, and you think about that, the idea of it. So the idea of it is, well, I'm my senses. I go into what I feel. I go into what I do. I go into my emotions. You go into, and then you go, when you get past that, okay, what am I else? What else am I? And then, for me anyway, it came to this dissolution of self. It became, on deep contemplation, this dissolution of everything. But not nothing, just a beingness, a beingness.
I like that.
That's what it came to after deep contemplation. So that is, that's the preface to getting into the Kabbalion, because that's a very, very deep, important thing, having reconciliation of self. So the Kabbalion brings up some really beautiful points, and I find them fascinating. The first one is all is mind. So all is mind ends up being the act of attention is the power in the mental universe. In other words, what you focus on expands. The act of attention is the power in the mental universe. And that's why screen time, or the thing our kids were concerned about, that's why TV, that's why images, that's why it's can be so damaging. Because what you're putting your attention to has the power in the mental universe. There's a lot of things to say about all is mind, but that's the first point of the Kabbalion.
Yeah, the principle of mentalism.
Mentalism, yep.
And how we have it in the book, basically, from the Kabbalion, the principle states that the universe is mental in nature, and that everything is a product of the mind or consciousness. It suggests that the underlying reality is a mental construct.
Right.
Well, that you could spend your life just on that first principle.
Yes, that all is mind. And that everything is in the mind of God is another way to look at it. Everything. And that's very difficult to deal with in a concrete way. But a lot of people just, let's say, live on faith, and that's how they live. And so, anyway, this is just a mental construct. The principle of correspondence is the next one, as above, so below. To me, that relates to polarity. As above, so below. But in the context of the Kabbalion, the lowest undifferentiated matter to the highest spirit, as above, so below. All planes are physical, mental, and spiritual in ascending degrees of vibration. So they're trying to explain how life is, that it's all vibration, and that it's all in ascending degrees of vibration. So the Kabbalion is trying to provide some type of information.
Yeah, and the connection of the planes of existence. So the principle of correspondence, I'm going to read straight from our book. This principle posts that there is correspondence and connection between different planes of existence, such as the physical, mental, spiritual realms. It's all interconnected. As above, so is below.
The next one, and they mentioned it, is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything is in motion, including God. All particles are in circular motion. Gluons and quarks pop in and out of existence. Light, heat, magnetism, electricity, gravity, all forms of vibratory motion. accomplish your results by changing your vibration through the use of your will. So what would be the point of studying the Kabbalion? The point would be to try to manifest something in your life, job-wise, relationship-wise, feeling-wise. Accomplish your results by changing your vibration through the use of your will.
What I really like about it is that I always kind of say it's the physics of life, where we have connections, spiritual connections. Some people call it the universe, some people say God, some people say the one, the all. And then some people don't believe in anything. They believe you're born and you die. And there's a lot of alchemy in the world as well. But what I say about this is that no matter what you believe in, no matter if you're a religious person that follows a certain doctrine, whatever it is, this only enhances your belief system. It doesn't take away. It doesn't take away from anything. It just gives you more, I think, like again, I say the word physics because it's almost mathematical.
Well, no, I agree with that, because through the principle of vibration, the next one is polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. The next one is rhythm. The tides go in, the tides come out. There are seasons. Everything flows. It's very...
It cycles.
Very cyclical, right. The principle of cause and effect, which many Buddhist people say that's a law of cause and effect, but in the Kabbalion they identify it as a principle. In other words, a law would be the law of gravity. It, boom, happens. The principle of cause and effect might not be so obvious. And for instance, you steal and you get away with $20 million. You got away with it, good for you. But point is that at some point it's gonna come back because there's no push without the pull. It has to be together. And then the last one is principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. So it's very interesting how the Kabbalion brings up all these points. It creates a place that we can have dialogue from and learn from, and that's part of what we'd like to offer in our retreats.
Yeah, so to go a little further, and now these are principles, but now there's practical application of these principles. So we asked a question, we asked a journal prompt. Reflect on the principle of mentalism. All is mind, the universe is mental. How does this idea resonate with your personal experiences and perceptions? Do you have an example of where you could say, all is mind, the universe is mental, how this could have affected an experience or perception that you've had?
Well, I used to think that things were real. I used to think the way I thought about things was a truth. And with this concept, all is mind, the universe is mental, it's a perception. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a truth. So realizing that I don't necessarily have the truth, but I have my own perception, that gives me a little bit of perspective from someone else's perspective, or someone else's point of view, that that could be their truth, although it's not mine. So it takes it away from the fact that there's a truth to the thing and there's just more points of view.
Right. Yeah, I like that because it's almost like, I feel like we design our own stage. Like what Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage and we are merely players. We create our story, and we create that our story is our reality. And then we start to be the player in that little reality that we just made. And then many times we're so stuck in this little box that we just put ourselves in. And then with that kind of permeates out. So if you have a family and then this is the mindset box that you've created, and now you're creating other little people that follow the same box. And now this becomes a ripple effect. So that's where I see it is thinking that this is the only existence is what this little safe thing that you built for yourself. So I think part of what we do in getting people out in retreats and going to other countries and pulling them outside of their comfort zone and seeing how this guy over here is building his house. The way people are living their lives so differently and outside of these constraints and creating their own realities. And I think it's really beautiful because we get very stuck.
Well, you don't really have to think like this. You don't really have to delve into kind of what's underlying the fabric of reality. You can just go to work and come home and love your family. But it seems like as you get older, life gets more complicated. And I know for me, after a really bad accident, it made me want to kind of understand what was underneath, like the driver underneath existence. And I really did want to understand it. I still have that today, like wanting to understand things on a deeper level. And so that's what motivates me. I have a daily practice. We wrote the book, Daily Practices. And that motivates me, like every day, breath work, exercise, eating right. And I'm the kind of person that haven't had alcohol in 20 years, whatever. And the point is that seeing reality, how it is in my view, and bringing it to the moment, that is the highest spiritual thing I've ever really experienced, when I'm really, really, really aware of it.
Yeah, that was well said. I want to just, I just want to, that's 2 videos in a row now.
I did that.
I'm like, whoops. I guess it's part of the Journey to Wellness podcast is that one whoops in every podcast. Contemplating on the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. And how do you notice I'm going to answer this myself, how do you notice the influence of energy and vibration in your daily life? That's why I love dogs. Like, I don't have to notice. My dogs notice.
Oh boy, do they ever.
And the vibrational energy that people emit from themselves, it's usually measured 0 to 6 feet out. And dogs pick up on this stuff. Like, why does your dog love one person and then growl at the next, or feel awkward, or if you watch their body language and the tail goes down, or the body shakes, or, I see this a lot in my own animals. I'm sure you've seen it on your walks with Grace, that they pick up on vibration
Hypersensitive.
so much. But we can change our vibration. And that's also evidenced. You can raise your vibration, you can lower your vibration.
And you can feel that too. You can feel when you're in a lower vibration. You can feel you're don't really have it today. And so that's it, just knowing, okay, that's where I'm at. And in fact, that's a good subject to think about. Okay, how do we move from one place to another? And how can you use some of these principles to move? I'm in a bad spot. I'm in a spot I don't want to be in, let's say. And you're the one who can identify where you're at. And okay, it's not great, let's just say that. Well, you can take any one of these principles and work it. For instance, let's just say the principle of rhythm, because I was in real estate for many, many years. Oh, by the way, one manifestation of kind of like this realization I had is that I decided to get out of the real estate business, even though I have a Colorado real estate license. And the reason is because I don't have that priority anymore. I have a different set of priorities. And I just noticed that's how this works in my personal life. I don't want to be the hotshot real estate guy making deals. I don't care about that. I have a different set of priorities. So that's just something that you know that about me, but that's just something I noticed. But if you trying to move from point A to point B, and you want to move from point, you're motivated to do it, you recognize you need to do something, you can pick any one of these and use them. For instance, the principle of vibration. One thing is just the confidence to knowing, shoot, I'm a vibrating object. I'm going to move from this spot. That's guaranteed. That's like the only guarantee. It's going to change. So that can help that just knowing that everything's in vibration. It can also help. I like to talk about the principle of rhythm, because the seasons are happening, and it's going to be spring again. Let's say you're in winter. It's going to be spring again. It's going to happen. So what does that mean for you? Take a chill pill. This is a time to relax. This is a time to experience yourself. This is the time to reflect, maybe study, but it's going to be spring again. Here we go. And you just move accordingly. That's the principle of rhythm. And that's a beautiful concept to keep in mind.
I like how you use the seasons, because you could also, you look at a tree and the tree sheds its leaves, the tree goes dormant, and the tree blooms again. And the bees come back. And today I saw a bird building a nest in the yard, and I love that. Everything rises and falls, everything has tides. And if we can, when we're in conflict, if we can just sort of sit with it, right? And we can, always look at angles to resolve your conflict, but also look to see did you create it as a conflict yourself because you just labeled it conflict? Or is this time for you to fluctuate? Maybe you're in a job that doesn't really serve you. Maybe you're in a relationship that doesn't serve you. Maybe you're tuning into things that are bringing you down. So keep moving. And going back into vibration again, and everything moves. When you're in motion, when you're moving forward, when you keep moving forward, it's very productive. When they try to train a dog to not be afraid of lightning, they'll put them on a special treadmill that's for dogs, and they'll have the dog in motion, and then they'll simulate lightning. But the dog isn't afraid now, because all the dog's thinking about is moving forward. That's the animal instinct when they're on the move, is to keep moving, and kind of connecting into that animal instinct that we have to keep moving forward. I like that a lot. Also, when you talked about vibration, I went straight to page 18, the food pyramid, the high frequency food pyramid that has been studied, used to see where human cells change and mutate using frequency simulators and affecting the body with different sounds and vibrations. And then having the study go into foods, what foods have zero frequency, what foods have high frequency. So I guess what I'm saying is you literally could change your vibration by changing your diet. And that's a really important thing to know.
And that would be on the level of the body, the planes of correspondence.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about cause and effect, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. How can understanding this principle empower you to take responsibility for your actions?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with cause and effect, I think a lot of people, just common sense prevails, like, okay, I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to do that. But some people do, and then they learn by the effect. They learn by the effect. Not. They can't initiate the pre-causal action. They have to learn by getting caught or whatever. So either way, you're going to learn, I think.
Well, also talk about there's true victimization. You were beaten up, you were assaulted, you were, something like that. You were robbed. And then there's victim mentality. There's almost, it's hard to put it in words what I'm trying to say, but when people are victimized, they have lost their power, they've given their power away. And when they show up for the job interview, they're not going to get picked. They're not going to get the job. You know, I've hired people before, and people come in with confidence. They're the ones that are going to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not as skilled, but they're confident.
Mm-hmm.
So they make you believe right away that they're going to be a great team player. They're going to be so good on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're not the best qualified. But they are also taking responsibility for their actions. The action is they don't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And now they want a job. So the responsibility is envisioning, they probably came in envisioning themselves walking through this door every day. They're sitting in the chair, or they're out on the gym floor, or wherever they are, but they're already in uniform, they've clocked in, and they're working.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're coming in for the interview as if they already have the job. So I'm just putting that in practical application of understanding the principle of how does this empower you to take responsibility for your actions.
And that's the principle of cause and effect?
Yeah.
Is that, well, I love that idea of that you already have the job.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Talk about a take charge person.
Well, I think it's important,
Mm-hmm.
like when we do our retreats, you know, a lot of times you say, how are you going to fill it?
Mm-hmm.
And I always have to go into the headspace of, I'm already sold out.
Mm-hmm.
We're already sold out. Everybody, oh my gosh, so many people are on board. And I tell myself this story because I want to replace it from the other story of
lack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person.
That's excellent.
You know, it causes so. And is it like you're placing you were talking about manifestation. People, this would apply because people want to manifest things.
Yes.
So I want to manifest things.
Right.
So is that a step towards manifestation?
Absolutely. The fact
Okay.
that you have, well, the manifestation principle is that you have the feeling that you already have it, and how does that make you feel, and that's what you feel.
Right.
So having that feeling that, oh man, look at this delicious, oh my, I would just love, oh my, you just start salivating. That same thing for your goals.
Yeah.
And have that feeling that you got, that's what you have. Oh my gosh, I have a hit song. I have, I travel the world. What else do you want to manifest? You know, great relationship. Oh, what would that mean to have a great relationship? What would I have to show up as to have a great relationship? I have to show up as what?
Mm-hmm.
You know, reliable, loving. What do I have to be? So that is the emotional state of manifestation, where you're drawing it towards you because you're attracting that because that's what you're being.
I think that was well said, and I also think that it raises dopamine because when you feel you have the reward, then it changes things.
Right.
It changes.
And it's not a
things.
dream that you're kind of like throwing a fishing line that I wish I could connect with that fish. It's like, I got it. And it's like, that's what I'm feeling, and you get up as a whirlwind because you have that going for you.
Right. I love that. That's really, really excellent. Genders in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. How do you recognize and balance these energies within yourself?
Well, so they're saying it's in everything. So you're pointing it to yourself. But for me, the fascinating part of that is that it's in everything, and it's by degrees. And to me, that's the fascinating part of it, because I never thought of it like that. Like the steel rail is, you know, I think pretty clearly masculine, right? But it could go into degrees and become like this softer, curved object, you know.
Interesting.
So it can be manifested in everything.
So balancing the energies within yourself, I think, is really going back to basic yin and yang polarity as well. You know, these energies that can't exist without each other. You can't have an ocean without a wave. You can't have the day without the night. You really don't have the sun without the moon. So the masculine and feminine energies are a harmony. It's like an orchestra that have to exist together in balance and not out of balance. How do you apply the principles of mentalism, correspondence, and vibration to manifest positive change in your life? So we went over some of them.
And manifesting positive change would have to be the important part for you. You would have to think, I really want to do something. I want to do something different. That's the point. Once you're there, then you can select, okay, how am I going to do it? But most part, like what we've seen, is just getting off the pot, getting off the starting block. Once you're there, okay, I am doing this, and once you're there, then you can pick. And then you might notice, I think the first thing Eckhart Tolle mentions is observation. The first thing is you have to notice. So that is crucial. Don't just start driving or that. You have to notice, okay, I'm in the car. I'm going to turn this on, but wait a second, where am I going? You have to have observation of self. And we were mentioning that at the very top, and I just think it's worth repeating. So the difference between the I and the me. The I is the consciousness that we just are, and the me is the becoming. The me is the doing. The me is the action. The me is everything that we're doing in our life. And that resting in the I, and in Vedanta they call it the I am, because it's just existence with no definition. It's just existence with no clarification. It's just the purity of that. That's the I. And then the me is just everything that you're doing. So differentiating the two, noticing that, and just observing it, that's the biggest step. Because once you do, then if you decide, this is what I noticed, that prayer is a 24/7 thing. Because once you notice that, and if you are motivated to want to make some type of changes, deep changes in your life, then you'll want to stick with it. Stick with it, stick with it, stick with it, which is the observation. That's it. It's really not complicated, but it does require like initiation. It does require the person to actually do it.
Yeah, and there's so many distractions too.
Right.
We didn't grow up with a lot of distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I remember, I'm really dating myself, but I remember the first black and white TV.
Mm-hmm.
And you were really privileged if you had one, and you'd sit
Mm-hmm.
around the house with one TV, and then the color TV came
Mm-hmm.
out. But like we talk about it all the time, like how did we know where the parties were?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have cell phones or computers, or we didn't even have our own phone.
Mm-hmm.
And we just communicated. So when you talk about the I and the me, I feel like we're really drowning our kids in distraction
Mm-hmm.
and layers and layers
Mm-hmm.
and layers of nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
where these contemplations aren't really occurring. Like the one I had, I told you I was 7 or 8 when I was like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, Alice just asked that, and do I even know the question, right? It's a privilege now to have an awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of it is, I feel, is like is being sucked away from us.
It can be. Again, if you focus on the principle of mentalism, what you focus on is what it is. So you can focus on all over the place if you want. Obviously, that's a problem. But, and I think it's a really good focus, and I just love it because I think it's profound. Like, knowledge is not something to know. Knowledge is something to pursue in the present moment. And one of the greatest questions is, who are you? I love it. And because that's ongoing, that's happening right now, and that should never cease. Mm-hmm. That is the observation of self and the constant questioning. Who am I? Like we know, like we friggin' know. You know what I'm saying? So knowledge isn't to know. That's why I'm a little upset about universities. It's not to know. Knowledge is to inquire, and that is the essence of living. So when you are doing self-inquiry and the beautiful simplicity of who are you, it's beautiful. That's it.
It is, and I keep thinking about we took a beautiful amount of people, lovely souls, to Jamaica, and we climbed a waterfall. And one of our people was a cancer survivor, not far out of treatment. And she was really not sure, could she do it?
Right.
But she wanted to try.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that fabulous caught in the moment shot of her being helped up by the Rasta, going up the rock with this huge lunge, and her hand in his hand. And to me, that was like one of the most beautiful moments. And I just love that moment, love that image, because it was somebody not claiming who they are, but just
discovering,
trying to be in the moment. And I was also climbing that waterfall, and I know there were times where I was just like one foot in the other, just trust. I've got some knee injuries, so I was really like, can I do this? And then I said, you know what, get out of your own way and stop trying to identify yourself and just move. Just be in motion. What's going to happen? You got someone who's ready to grab you if you fall. Just keep going. And the who am I changes when you push yourself physically in fitness, whether it's running, lifting, stretching, walking, tennis, golf, hiking, whatever.
So Tom Brady at the last minute. Who am I?
Who am I?
That? It's just such a profound question.
But you don't know who you are, and you're pushing your limits. You thought you were this person, but now you're that. And that's why I love when we use physicality to stretch the person in self-discovery. We use prompts, journal prompts for reflective contemplation. Random acts of kindness can really connect you to another. Definitely. Who am I? Just looking at some of the shadow work that we present.
Well, and also too, your observation of self in the who am I creates the who am I. And so that for instance, the beautiful thing you guys did in Jamaica, going to the dog rescue place, that's, remember, what did Diesel say? He goes, now I get you.
Yeah. Now I know who you are. Yeah. So we went to Jamaica, and part of the excursions, it wasn't a fancy excursion. I chose to go take a group to an animal rescue, specifically a dog rescue in Negril. This lovely couple had over 50 dogs, just the two of them trying to help these animals. In developing countries, it's very hard for people to feed animals because they're working on feeding their families. And it was dusty. It wasn't pretty. It was a scene. And we were there, and we were just getting down and trying to give to the dogs, timid, some of them with 3 legs, all kinds of weird stuff. And our Rastafarian driver afterwards, when we came back to the van, he said, now I know who you are. Now I know why you're here. And I realized that it's such a great effect on him to see us doing this level of kindness. Plus, we gave to a lot of people. We brought books for kids. We brought clothes. We brought toys. We were pretty loaded on giving. So, bringing that up. So basically, I'm happy that we started out where our first chapter was on nutrition, because we talked about, in order to get to a place of mind, body, spirit, we have to feed ourselves the right food. Because if we feed ourselves the wrong food, and what I mean by wrong, I'm talking about processed. There's something to be said for home-cooked meals and the love that's put into cooking for your family. And we'd love to get more people cooking for themselves. That would be a really great thing.
Well, we have a different type of movement than, let's say, the yogis in India. They all focus spirituality, and they almost just let go of the body in a sense. They kind of have to because of that commitment level to spirituality. But Melissa and I have identified body, mind, and spirit, and these planes of correspondence all relating to each other for the benefit of the whole organism, for the person. And that's why I love your nutrition background. I love the fact that we can offer exercise, and I love the fact we can offer meditation, and a variety of information such as the Kabbalion. I think it can enhance the overall person, and it just depends on their level of commitment.
Well, I remember when we chose chapter 2 to be the Kabbalion, the conflict that I've always had in my entire career in wellness is mindset. How am I going to get people to wrap their heads around making them so important, making, my body's a temple, my mind is a temple, mind-body connection of like...
Existence is a temple.
Yeah, existence is a temple. Like, I'm pretty holy. The fact that I exist is a pretty holy thing.
It's completely ununderstood. We don't understand it. We don't get it.
Right.
I don't.
So then we're like, well, how do we get them to move? How do we get them to either walk, run, swim, jog, do qigong, do yoga? How do we motivational mindset? So we came up with chapter 2 being the Kabbalion because we felt that if people can even attach to one concept, if they understand their role in the universe, so to say, then it might help them develop a daily practice.
Even moving one step, like as an example, just on observation, okay, hey, I don't need to hit McDonald's. I don't have to do that. Melissa said it's not a good idea. She's a nutritionist. She knows it's not a good idea on just about everything on their menu, right? I mean, actually.
No, there's nothing good there.
Nothing.
You don't need any, there's nothing there for you.
So that would be all the drive-thrus, not to single them out, but that'd be all the drive-thrus, just about everyone. And so that one step that you realize, okay, I could do that. Just moving off the 8 ball a little bit, that is part of our retreat, just getting someone to move a touch.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to be this yogic personality that only eats and breathes air, the breatharians. You don't have to, it's not what it is. It's just your level of steps that you want to take into your life that are positive. And so our retreat, the very next retreat we're having is in Costa Rica. It's going to be off the hook. We have incredible coaches coming with exercise programs, Pilates, running, Qigong, nutrition. We have all kinds of offerings that we have there besides a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And that's the next one coming up in December.
Yep, in December, approximately December 13th through the 20th, give or take a day, working on the final commitments now. And the purpose of it is to have a better immune system, because we go from October, November, December, January as a massive sugar season. You have Halloween into Thanksgiving, into Christmas parties, into New Year's, and then we have the American flu season, which is really the American sugar season crash of poor immune system. So we want to take people, we want to kind of revitalize them, energize them, restorative type of work, breath work, all my stellar coaches in the beautiful setting of Costa Rica, which is just a fully accepting type of vibe in that country. The food is just unbelievable. I can't wait to eat some of the fruits because we don't have them here. And we'll go on beautiful excursions, we'll chase waterfalls, we'll see volcanoes, we'll do it all.
Climb rainbows.
Yeah, climb rainbows. And we're going to incorporate daily practices. So people will have daily practices. Because what we really want to get across is that it's great to come on retreat and get things done and do things because it's on the itinerary. But when you could start to live your life in a daily practice, even if you take away one thing, maybe two, but it becomes your daily practice, you're going to notice that your life is better.
And it's incremental.
And you're going to feel better. And it's purposeful. Whether it's drink more water,
Just that.
sleep
Just
more,
that.
breathe more, breathe deeper. So let's conclude. Is there anything that you would like to point out as bullet points of where people can connect better with us, or how to develop more into the daily practice? We do have an app coming out. It's in the works.
I was going to hold off on that, the things we're working on until we have them.
Yeah.
But essentially, I'd love for people to come to our retreats, save money, because they cost close to $3,000, $3 to $4,000. Save money, pay a little bit each month, and I really think you'll feel it. And we've done about 10 retreats now, and we really get a consistent reaction from people. And sometimes it's a realization you're not expecting. But in most cases, it's very positive. Some obvious things, you're just like, I'm just going to do this because it was obvious to you already. That would happen almost like the first day. But because of your commitment, you generate your own answers. And so that's why we create this kind of venue for people. And it's just wonderful to see how it kind of plays out.
Yeah, for sure. And each retreat has a different price tag and it's a different location. We're also going to be looking at cruise ships. We are going into the 4-star type of vibe, and I'm really excited about that. So anywhere is going to get up into the numbers there as far as our costs go, but we offer payment plans. And we also have offered a scholarship fund for cancer survivors that will take one cancer survivor per retreat for a very minimal donation. So if that's something people want to give to and support cancer survivors on retreat. One way to check out what we're doing is www.healingwheelholistic.com. We also have gotten into the transformational travel as agents and can hook you up with really good travel discounts and places and curate your retreats. Large groups, small groups, doesn't matter. www.healingwheelholistic.com. And we are broadcasting today from the Treehouse Cafe in Colorado Springs. So proud of Sarah Grant for opening up this fabulous holistic cafe where you can have lots of workshops, take workshops, have events, come to events, art. I think there's every Friday is an art opening. Come meet the artists. And we are so happy you tuned in today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.